chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Hey, happy Monday. How are you? It's good to have you here with us, to my family and the Sabrina Speaks family near and far. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Yes, right here on cmrtv.com. And we are, as you know, Voices of the Islands, Conversations for the World, and the podcast where voices rise as stories unfold and inspiration takes center stage. For all of you first-timers, thank you so much. I see you following and liking and sharing, and I'm getting the behind-the-scenes after-show messages. Thank you so much. I'm a little behind on some of my WhatsApp messages for those who are just tuning in, and I just was a bit under the weather on Saturday. Oh, God, I thought I was coming down with that bad flu, but I followed my body and I purged myself with a lot of water and stuff and just pretty much crashed out. And then I started to feel better on Sunday. And you saw the pictures as Palm Sunday was there. And I will share some of my, you know when I'm feeling better, put it like that. Eric pretty much says, oh, yeah, you feeling better. Stove got going and the oven got going and people started eating. So I'm just happy whatever it was going on with me. I just could not. All of my appointments, every one of my errands that I had to do on Saturday, I just could not move. I was really, really concerned that I was coming down with that bad flu. But thank you, Jesus, because I don't normally get sick. It wasn't. And whatever it was, thank God it has gone and I'm feeling much better. That showed in some of the captions that I shared on my Facebook page with you all yesterday as we welcome and usher in this Holy Week for a festive season. But it's good to be back with you on this Monday. Yes, 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 because I know we're winding down the month of March, and we have focused the entire month of March all around the world on women. Tomorrow, I'll be dedicating a show to that because there was just so much going on. As we end and acknowledge, I have been shared a very nice background of Miss Lucille actually shared something with me by email. So to let you know, I did receive your email. And I'll be dedicating a show tomorrow, going back in history and coming forward, not just from the political side, but, based on research and so forth, of women who have been very instrumental here in the Cayman Islands who have paved the way. So yeah, I will do a segment on that tomorrow for you. And I'll share, of course, some image in this poem that Miss Lucille actually sent me by email. And I thought it was only fitting for me to to put that a part of the package that I'm putting together for you tomorrow. But, kicking off the Easter holidays, I was out and about today, yes, catching up on my errands, and I'm seeing a lot of the tour buses. We had, I could recall seeing 2 cruise ships in the harbor. And, Smith Cove, I drove across Smith Cove and OMG, these tents are getting bigger. It's really like you're relocating your home. And it just pushed me to pull this show up a little earlier because you could see, and the tourists, unless they tell them on the cruise ships or the tour operators actually explain to them what's going on, it crossed my mind, what is going through their mind when they go to these beach sites and see all of these tents and stuff? Well, I know my Caymanians, they are ambassadors. And I'm quite sure if they come across and they question that my Caymanians will explain to them if they're like, this is how you live. Because, some of them think we're still sleeping in hammocks and living in thatch huts, right? But we have some very sophisticated campsites, let me tell you. So it's camping on steroids here. But hence me pulling today's show up a little earlier than I anticipated, because I was wondering what's going through their minds as they disembark and they make their way either along 7 Mile Corridor, but specifically was what I saw on at Smith Cove, Smith Back Adair. And I was saying, oh my gosh, I wonder what's going through their mind. So hence today's special edition of Living by the Shore, Understanding Cayman's Easter Camping Culture. Because, like I said, every year during the Holy Week, and some have started from last week. I took a drive out to East End on Thursday of last week, and I saw tents already pitched across from Cox up there on the government site. And, our beaches transform into something, what we call magical. Others may think we're, oh my gosh, it's that time of the year again. We don't have access to our beaches. Yeah, like I can see it right now, right? But at the end of the day, it becomes, it's who we are. It's our culture. And it's, as a child growing up, I considered it something magical. And living in that whole tapestry of tents and families with laughter and the smell of fried fish, oh my God, and the cast iron pots and the mosquitoes. Yeah, for some, it's a familiar sight. And for others, especially for those who are new to our island, may be thinking it's something they've never seen before, or like, what's the heck is going on? This is not the 5-star that we were promised. This is not what we actually envisioned. What's going on? Let me tell you, if you're one of those, you want to join today's show, because here in Cayman, Easter camping is more than just a pastime. It is who we are. It is our heritage. It is our identity. It is one of the oldest traditions that is still practiced on our islands today. So tonight, I invite you to participate, share your memories, call in live, reminisce. We know some of you, once you leave every footprint that you were there. I'm hoping that you will do the right thing, because if this is exactly who we are, which it is who we are, it is our history, it is our identity, you want to leave your campsites clean, okay? Yes. And we are going to explore where this tradition possibly came from, why it matters, and why it continues to grow even as our islands continue to change. And we're doing it in a way, and I'm hoping that it welcomes everyone's. And if you didn't understand it before, I'm hoping that by the end of this segment, this show, you will understand it. Caymanians, residents, visitors, you name it, because understanding each other's culture is how we build, in my opinion, a stronger, more respectful community. We have heard it here on this platform that everybody is pretty much infiltrating who we are, and we don't stand up for one another anymore or enough. Now, this is the time of the year that you see it really, and it's a little different. So I encourage you to grab a beverage, tell a friend, share the link, and let's honestly take a journey to the shoreline and to places where our culture lives, breathes, and continues to thrive. Now, I did not get the opportunity to take some pictures, but I'm quite sure there will be some. And I respect people's privacy, but hence it came about as I drove by Smith Backendare today on my way home. 345-936-8255 is the number to call and be a part of this conversation this evening. I always love your feedback. I love your contribution. I love when you I love when you call it and contribute as well. Marshall, you giving trouble. I see you, my friend. That's exactly where I want to be. But, you know, I'm loyal, just like yourself. I'm dedicated, and we show up. 5 o'clock somewhere. I'll share what Marshall is sharing with me behind the scenes with you in a second. Yes, so 345-936-8255 is the number to call. Let me know where you're streaming from. Let me know what you're doing right now, like Marshall is doing. He's tempting me very, very much this evening to be a part of this discussion as we continue to evolve and grow in this space. But remember, the content you're about to hear, including any decisions, discussions, or opinions from myself, guests, and our participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for your specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. It's good to be back with you this evening. And I know you guys are planning. You're out there already in the elements. But here is this evening's weather report for this evening and into tomorrow. Yes. The synopsis calls for moderate to fresh winds and rough seas that are expected, especially over the eastern and northern coast, as the pressure gradient remains tight over the Northwest Caribbean. A small craft alert is in effect. Moisture embedded within the wind flow of high pressure system can produce a few early morning showers on Tuesday. Radar imagery shows isolated showers in and around the Cayman area. Now, the forecast for tonight. First of all, there is a small craft alert that is in effect for tonight and into tomorrow. And small craft should exercise caution over open waters, especially along the north and east coast, within the reef and sheltered areas. Now, conditions are generally less severe, but operators should continue to exercise discretion as localized choppy conditions may still develop. And there will be partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers tonight. Temperatures will fall near the mid-70s. Winds will be east to northeast, 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts, and seas will be moderate to rough with wave heights of 6 to 8 feet. Now for tomorrow. The forecast calls for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of early morning showers. Temperatures will rise near the mid-80s. Winds will be east to northeast, 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts. Seas will be rough with wave heights of 6 to 8 feet. And again, I'll repeat, a small craft alert will remain in effect because small craft should exercise caution over open waters, especially along the north and east coast for tomorrow. Now, the same applies, like tonight, within the reef and sheltered areas. Conditions are generally less severe, but operators should continue to exercise discretion as localized choppy conditions may still develop. There will be a high tide tonight at 8:35. Tomorrow, there'll be a low tide at 2:36 in the morning and another high tide at 8:27. The sun will set this evening at 6:38 and sun will rise tomorrow at 6:21. Now, the outlook is for similar conditions through Wednesday morning, where the pressure gradient is expected to weaken. So I hope that all of you boaters out there, because it is that season, that you follow these warnings and you keep these cautions and you keep abreast and updated with all our local media to be safe on the roads. We want to have a festive Easter season. And I know a lot of watercrafts are going to be out there. People are going to be out in the waters. You're going to go out in your boats and all that sort of stuff. Lots going on. So you want to keep it locked. Make sure you know exactly what's happening with the weather. Now let's take a look at this evening news happening right here in the Cayman Islands, starting with local news first. Now, the ministry responsible for Caymanian employment and immigration, along with the Workforce Opportunities Residence and Resident Cayman Department, has confirmed that the long-awaited immigration law change will officially now take effect on Friday, 1st of May, 2026. Official says the new date ensures that every part of the system, from technology and forms to staffing and internal processes, is fully prepared to deliver a smooth transition for employers, employees, and residents. The original date had been set for April 2nd, but the government says the additional time was necessary to guarantee readiness and avoid disruptions. All stakeholders are encouraged to review the updated guidance as Cayman prepares for the new immigration framework to come into force now on May 1st. We will keep you abreast should there be any further changes. In other local news, the Cayman Islands government has approved new drafting instructions aimed at strengthening oversight for the national fuel sector. Now, officials say that the reform will enhance public safety, improve consumer protection, and create a more sustainable regulatory framework for the long term. Under the proposed changes, all fuel sector licensing and regulatory authorities will be consolidated under the Utility Regulations and Competition Office, URCO. Now, this means licensing responsibilities will shift from the Department of Commerce and Investment, creating a single, accountable regulator with clear powers for oversight, compliance, and enforcement. The government says the move is designed to modernize the sector and ensure stronger protections for the public. In other local news making today's headlines, police are investigating a robbery that took place late Friday night in the parking lot of Harbor Walk off Shamrock Road. Just before 10 p.m., officers responded to reports that a man had been attacked after leaving a local gym. According to the RCIPS, the victim was approached by an unknown man asking for help with changing of attire. After being led to a secluded area, the suspect assaulted him and stole a gold chain from his neck. A second man then approached, prompting the victim to flee. The primary suspect is described as having a brown complexion, medium height, athletic build, and low-cut hair. Police recovered evidence at the scene, but the suspect remains at large. The RCIPS is urging the public to stay vigilant and report any information to the Georgetown Police Station or Crime Stoppers. Also, in other local news, and all for our sports fanatics, yes, the Cayman Islands men national team has closed out the CONCACAF International Friendly Series with a 1-0 victory over the Bahamas on home soil. Now, the decisive win capped a strong performance from the squad, who maintained control throughout the match and continued to build competitive momentum. Officials congratulated the players and coaching staff and expressed appreciation to supporters for their consistent backing throughout the series. Always good news. That's a tradition too. Remember 5-a-side days. Wrapping up this evening's local news, we got the cabinet has approved amendments to the Cayman Islands visa regulations, introducing new entry and transit requirements for nationals of 4 countries. The changes take effect this Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. Now, the updated framework, formerly cited as the Customs and Border Control Visa Entry and Landing Amendment Regulations 2026, is intended to prevent the Cayman Islands from being used as a transit point for irregular migration. Under the new rules, nationals of Peru, Venezuela, and will now require visas for both entry and transit. Nationals of Haiti and the Dominican Republic will be required to obtain an in-transit visas when passing through the jurisdiction. Now, Home Affairs Minister Honorable Nicholas DaCosta says the amendments are a proactive step to safeguard Cayman's borders and uphold international obligations. Targeted exemptions have been included to avoid disruption of legitimate travelers, including cruise passengers making short transfers for operational airline or medical crew. CBC Director Bruce Smith says that the strengthening regulations will enhance screening capabilities while maintaining the smooth flow of bona fide visitors. Members of the public and industry professionals are encouraged to review the full regulations and confirm compliance before arranging any travel. Let's turn our attention now to international news. In the United States, an estimated 8 million people took part in nationwide No King demonstrations, marking the largest single day of protest activity in the country's history. Organizers say the movement reflects growing public concerns over the democratic norms and executive power. Authorities reported largely peaceful gatherings across major states, with security forces maintaining a visible but controlled presence. Yes, that's what's happening all over. And other U.S. news, President Trump is drawing international attention after boasting about U.S. involvement in regime change operations in Iran, as an additional 3,500 American troops arrived in the Middle East. The deployment comes amid escalating regional tensions and heightening concerns from global security analysts. Now, the White House says the move is intended to strengthen deterrence and protect U.S. interests. Pope Leo has delivered what many observers interpret as a pointed criticism of global leaders involved in ongoing conflicts, declaring that those who fuel war have, and I quote, hands full of blood. Speaking during a recent address, the Pope urged an immediate end to violence and called for renewed commitment to peace, humanitarian protection. Now, his remarks come amid escalating international tensions and growing concerns over civilian suffering in multiple conflict zones. And over in Venezuela, yes, the United States has officially reopened its embassy in Venezuela after a 7-year closure, marking a significant shift in diplomatic relations. State Department officials says that this move reflects progress in recent negotiations and a renewed effort to stabilize regional engagement. Now, the reopening is expected to expand consular service and reestablish direct diplomatic channels between Washington and Caracas. And to close out this evening's news, we take a look at what's happening in the business in our business news wrap-up. Global markets closed sharply lower today as surging oil prices, escalating Middle East conflicts, and tariff-driven inflation pressures continue to weigh in on investor sentiment. The U.S. markets ended the day in a decline as crude oil once again surpassed $100 per barrel, driven by intensifying conflict involving Iran and the closure of key shipping lanes. The Dow Jones, NASDAQ, and Russell 2000 all extended recent losses, with analysts noting deepening correctional levels pressures across major indices. Also, in energy, global markets are bracing for a systemic energy shock as a tanker tariff through the Strait of Hormuz has collapsed by over 90%, leaving more than 21 million barrels of oil stranded. Insurance premiums for vessels in the regions have quadrupled, and Asian economies also face severe industrial risk due to energy independence. In a report from Forbes reports that U.S. consumers continue to face rising prices as companies pass along the cost of President Trump's tariffs. A KPMG survey shows that 34% of major firms are now shifting most tariff-related costs directly to consumers, and over half expect to raise prices by 15% or more in the coming months. Now, some companies are increasing prices even on goods not directly affected by tariffs, signaling broader inflationary pressures across the retail landscape. Here in the Caribbean, regional economies are also bracing for the impact of higher fuel costs, and analysts are warning that elevated oil prices could increase electricity and transportation expenses across import-dependent islands. As tourism-driven markets, however, continue to show resilience as spring travel demand remains strong. And there you have it. That closes out our business wrap up for today. And we're going to keep you informed. Definitely right here on Sabrina Speaks. We get it. We're going to share it with you. There was a new one that I got up just before coming on that some store in the UK ordered 380 some bananas that they ordered. Now they have so much bananas that they're going bunkers, but I'll come back to that later on. But that was quite comical. Now they're trying to figure out what they're going to be doing with all of these bananas. And they're sharing recipes. It's a little town and the weather's been so bad they can't send it back to the mainland. So before all of these bananas spoil on them, they are actually giving them away. Hefty price for a simple mistake. You call it a typo. Good evening. Welcome. Happy birthday, happy anniversary to everyone celebrating a birthday over the weekend or today, anniversary as well. From all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks family, we celebrate with you as well. And for those who are mourning the loss of a loved one, our sincere thoughts and prayers are with you. Mitzi, how are you in the north? Happy Easter to you too, my friend. Hi, Annie's in the house. Connie Bonnie, let me see what kind of orchids you came home with now, because I saw some images. If you guys went out to the Botanical Park this weekend, they had, oh my goodness, what a sight. It was so beautiful. And from all accounts, it was well attended. And I am so happy that you guys, for all of you plant lovers, I am horrible at those things. But from what I'm seeing, there were some beautiful orchids there. Yes, Connie was in heaven, I am sure, because she constantly volunteers. And I'm hoping that that calmed you. Yes, and everybody who went and bought up for this Easter. Yes, Miss Dorothy's in the house. Live happy. How are you? Happy Monday, short and week, as we are in the Holy Week and Easter. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Marshall is in the house and he is just boasting on me today as he is sharing with me that there's 5 o'clock somewhere. And look at what the brute did. Look at what he did. That's what Marshall does me behind the scenes, and you have to keep a straight face. So there we go. That's Marshall having a whale of a time. Kudos to you. You deserve it, my love. Good evening to you. Love you lots. And you just enjoy those beverages. One of these days I'll join you. I'm sure. What a time we would have. Oh my God. Like the good old days, huh? Thank you for sharing that with me, and thank you for allowing me to share it as well. Damian Henry, hey, how are you? Happy Monday as you embark on this Monday, shortened week here. Doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. You know, that's why you gotta step out in faith, Damian. Thank you for sharing that with us this evening. Connie Bonnie says, I'm leaving work now and is about to take that route home. Good for you. Be safe on the road and go and look at your orchid babies, I am sure. Miss Dorothy is from Florida. Thank you for having us with you, Miss Dorothy. It's always a pleasure. Yes. Connie, so what about the Philippines? What about them? What happened? You're driving. Okay. Philippines with what? With their shorten on fuel? I don't know what you're asking about. Just tell me and then I'll try to answer. Yeah. What am I seeing? Oh, okay. Waking up the Cayman Islands. Yes. The time change here in the UK might not stay for the full show, but thank you for joining me. Anyhow, it's a pleasure to have my UK family. And also Real Michelle. Where is she? It's been a while. I know she's been going through some stuff. So yeah, and my Australian crew, I got a Belize crew, I got a Nicaraguan crew. I see you, nurse. Thank you for all the love. Yo te quiero mucho, mi amorcita. Yes. Some of you said I got that Spanish thing down the other day. People were laughing at me. Oh, with the visa? No, it's only what I said in the news. I will dig more into that, Connie Bonnie, about the visa for the Filipinos. I will dig more into that. We know that there's an ongoing investigation, and Sandra had did an entire expose on whatever was going on there. And let me tell you something. There's something deeper for the Nepalese, the Filipinos, who are leaving their country. And I'll share. I won't have an entire show on it because Sandra's already doing an expose on it. But with my immigration background and having assisted in my former life with assisting persons from Philippines who had approved work permits here, there is an office in Washington that people should go through before actually coming here and get authorization. Yes. And it's the same for Nepal, for the Nepalese. There is an office that handles all of the movement of their people. And nationally, and I can't speak on behalf of the government, this has been in place from Santa was a boy. What has been happening, I can't speak to whether or not anything has changed, but based on what little research I did, anyone coming from the Philippines to work here in the Cayman Islands, or a Filipino national, let me say, because they could be coming from Dubai. Let's say they're already out of the Philippines and they're working someplace else. The bottom line is authorization should be given from this office in Washington. And I'm wondering if that check and balance from our work permit arm, two governments, two countries speaking to each other, has not been overlooked for some reason. One can't say that they don't know about it because it's in place. And as far as I know, there's also a rep here in the Cayman Islands that should know of this. And there was a letter that employers would do asking for permission, attaching, let's say, trade and business, who they are, their ideas, their employer, go through this particular vetting office in Washington, attach the work permit, and they would say whether or not, it's okay. The thing is, having been out of it for almost 5 years, I'm not convinced that we did enough to make sure that that process was actually continued. And I have someone who was audited by this agency in Washington because their legitimate business had hired some Filipino nationals. I know what I'm saying because I assisted in the document, the letter. I'm a notary then, and I assisted in drafting the letter, sending it, and dealing directly with that Washington office. But what took me by surprise is that one day, and they shared the story with me recently after this blew up, I was audited by that Washington office. I said, what do you mean you were audited? I had done the process, they said, and I did the letter, said John Brown is coming, Filipino national, will be working for me. Here's the proof, yada, yada, yada. They says, no, we can't approve for your organization to get another one because on our records, you already have 5 in your employ. Of course they were taken back. What do you mean 5? I don't have anyone. They have moved on. You realize what happened? The responsibility, now whether it's this country or in this case, the employer, they were supposed to report back to Washington office every time a Filipino national that they did the process for had moved. And they didn't do that, of course, not thinking about it, right? And when they went and did the regular process for a new one, not having any Filipino nationals in their organization at the time, they says, hold up, on our records, you got 5. They had to declare, no, these people are no longer my employee. This is from when they were employed, yada, yada, yada. So where is the missing link in all of this? Should it be a case where immigration shouldn't be issuing work permits unless one can demonstrate that they have communicated with this Washington office? Because if that national requirement has been overlooked for whatever reason, you can't put 100% of the blame on the employer. That is a national agreement to track these Filipino nationals. And in that letter, and I don't mean to digress, it's only because it came up. In that letter, the employer was stating how much the salary is, where they would be living, and God forbid if they died in the Cayman Islands, that holder of the work permit, that employer in that agreement with that Washington office says, I'm responsible for repatriating the remains back to their country of origin. Yes. If something has changed in all of these work permits that we have been issuing to Nepalese, Filipino nationals, and any other countries that has a foreign office to keep track of their very own people, then how have they been granted work permits? If that is an international requirement, something is wrong with the process. Because when I last checked, it's still in place. So it begs to question, how many Filipinos do you have in your employ right this minute that you may have employed whilst they were already here? Have you done your due diligence? And what if you are an employer and you were the one who brought a Nepalese or a Filipino national to this island to work? You would still be on record for being responsible for them if that government decides to hold the last person on record responsible for, God forbid, their demise. There is a process, my friends. And with the allegations that are coming out about how these people are being mistreated, how they're being used, at the end of the day, if it's human trafficking and all that sort of stuff, you don't want that to go back to say that Cayman Islands is harboring that kind of a behavior, when in fact, there's a critical process, for whatever reason, that has somewhat fallen along the wayside, and these people are not being filtered through that Washington office. Then, this is not about pointing fingers. Should it be a case where no applications then are renewed or granted unless you can prove that these people in the Cayman Islands has gone through and updated their records with that office in Washington? If you said you want to do due diligence, if you say you want to stop it now, let's get it right. Trust me, all you have to do is to jointly with the work permit holder and their current employer do that process. Yes, because it is right there. It is right there. The system is there. To the best of my knowledge, there was not a fee. But then that allows that country to know where their citizens are. Now, it's different if they're now married to a Caymanian, got their papers, long-term residency, but there's also a declaration for that too, might I tell you? Yes. And it's handled through the same office. And it's the same principle for when I was doing my research, only because of the two nationalities that were being spoken about were people from Nepal and the Philippines. What I am trying to avoid is this country getting labeled that we are actually creating this environment for these nationals to be taken advantage of when there's a critical step that no one can tell me is still being or is being followed before a work permit is granted or considered. Even if there is just evidence of intent to employ a Filipino national or a Nepalese, that you have made contact as a prospective employer subject to the approval of that application. Because I am telling you, there is a process separate and aside from just applying for a work permit. So I hear the call for let's stop granting any more work permits for anyone from this country, from anyone from that country. Let me tell you something. You can weed them out very easy if they're not currently updated with their country. And then maybe you may understand whether or not they're here under the right meme or not. Yes. Yes. Because if they're syndicates, if they're side branches of doing this, then you kind of wonder how they're getting here. And please don't get me wrong. This is not only employing persons who are coming directly from the Philippines. This is the employment of a Filipino national by right. Once you are their employer, somewhere you need to be contacting that country and letting them know, I have Isabella Retzonetta, whatever her name is, or David, whatever. You get the point. Anyone from these countries, there is an official authority authorizing body from that country, and their offices are in Washington. If you doubt me, go and Google it. And if we have been approving these work permits willy-nilly, it speaks more about this jurisdiction and adhering to international practices and makes it even look even worse on us with all of the allegations that have been played out on a public platform that is being streamed all over the world. I applaud my colleague, CEO, for digging into that, but it opened what you call a huge Pandora box. Because there's a critical international element that I feel as a jurisdiction we're missing. Yes. So it will be interesting to see how many employers have actually done that process. If you do stock of every Filipino national that is in this country right now on a work permit, we're not even going about the PR. We're not going there. We're just talking about those persons who are here on work permits. Because anyone who is here on a work permit should be registered with that office in Washington. And that office should be reflecting their current employer at this time. If they don't exist in that office, then you got to wonder how they got here. How did they get their exit out of their country? Or just updating their movement? So I will leave it there for that because I'm quite sure there will be a continuation on Sandra's show, maybe on this expose, as they realize how to connect the dots and all that sort of stuff. And I heard the Premier and Minister Ralston Anglin was on Sandra's show this morning talking about the fuel and all that. Remember that episode that we did on Off Reg? Do you realize what I was telling you all on Off Reg? And you realize now I said it, they don't control the price. Now they're looking at legislation now, not only to move it from under trade and business license, but to all put it under one umbrella. I told you guys, no way saw this one coming, but I told you if you go back to some of my episodes, it will all make sense. You cannot say that you are left in the dark. You can't. You can't say you left in the dark. And this is not predicting anything. No. We highlighted the powers of off-reg here, and I applaud this government for now actually taking it on board. But yeah, that is the latest that we have on that developing story. And then in the same conversation this morning, because it was shortened, I'm quite sure they'll be back on to go in more detail. Then they talked about how this new, where government departments don't speak to each other and that sort of stuff, which some of the things that Sandra highlighted just by sitting behind her computer and going on here and going on there, she pretty much exposed an entire world that has WORC, that has CBC in the center of this. And yet there's a critical step that I've heard nobody talked about. Not in any of those discussions that I hear where, has anybody been going through this office in Washington? I never heard it. But that exists, and it exists for a reason. And I feel nationally, we have a reputation to protect. And if some of these unscrupulous employers were really going through, and some of the bad actors that we're getting in as well, if they were all being filtered through that Washington office, there's a greater chance some who are being described now in this country would have never been allowed here because they would have followed. Now, at what point of the process? At what point of the process should that take place? Is a different thing now. Which one comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because back in the day, with what I explained to you in the letters that I was instrumental in doing, and I personally had to do it for myself as well, because there was one that was here, Filipino national, that was employed by me, went home on rollover, I think for a year, 2 years, whatever had happened. And I brought them back directly from the Philippines. And I thought it was a norm. I personally did it myself, and it wasn't hard. I had nothing to hide, but that was a service that I offered as well. But I didn't see where even their work permit came with the condition that I went through Washington. And there was nothing that says once the person arrives, or should I get authorization from Washington or wherever their head office is, that I should funnel that back to them days it was immigration. Nothing. So it tells me we're missing a critical point. Let me go to some of the comments because I love to hear your feedback. Keith says, why is the governor removing the ombudsman from office? I find her to be an honest, hardworking Caymanian woman who is fighting for the rights of all Caymanians. I don't know, Keith. We just have to watch that unfold. I can't speak to that. I guess at some point the government or the governor's office will actually make a statement out on that. And please remember, I did an entire, I think, 2 episodes on the role of that position, on that office, that role as well. So Keith, I don't know. Let's follow that up, but thanks for highlighting that. Plain and Straight said, oh, going back on that, there was, the first heading that it made was that there were reports. It was alleged that a number of reports were made to the governor based on how they were treated in the department, like staff were reporting how they were being treated and outbursts and something like that. This is just by memory. But you know what? Officially, I'm quite sure at some point an official statement will be made. If that is the latest development, it hasn't crossed me yet. So yeah. So let's see. Plain and Straight, good evening. Hi, how are you? Good to have you. Cheryl, good to have you watching us. Thank you so much. Harry, hi. Denver says, the rep highly involved in help of her or his own, most natural to help your own. Oh, okay, probably. Gotcha. You're following along with the conversation. Yes, must communicate with our immigration. I'm thinking you're getting the authorization for these nationals coming out. Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest, with that, but there is a process that I feel nationally we're missing, and it should be brought into alignment with this particular office in Washington. Plain and Straight said, the last statistics that I saw, there were over 7,700 work permits issued to Filipino nationals. How can this requirement not be well-known fact? Well, my love, I am telling you that there is a process. There is a process, and whether it's enforced, upheld, but now you see, this now has opened whether or not these people have gone through this office. And then that puts us in a certain position as well as a jurisdiction issuing these things. Now, it'll be sad if the liability now is offloaded then on every employer. And this is why I say, just like the transitional provisions, I feel that if you find where you've employed a Filipino national here and you didn't know about this, that responsibility should be shared both by the employer and also the state. Because by right, it is internationally known. So let's see what will become of that. Miss Dorothy says, the other day I was there, I noticed a lot of Filipinos. Yeah, they are here. Denver. Why do you think we have the prostitution market here? Seen with driver's license. Little rub. Hi. Oh my God, you behave yourself, Denver. What's wrong with you? Andrew, it's good to have you here. Is the UK government involved in any of this, considering that we are technically still responsible for foreign policy, especially if these countries want to track their citizens? Yeah. Through the governor's office, Harry. It's through the governor's office within a sovereign constituent part of the UK. Yeah. But this is where it gets bigger now, Harry, because it was an investigation, an expose that was done that highlighted this, that actually, again, another friend and I were just talking, but I honestly thought it was being done. Being out of the business now for 5 years, I didn't realize that it wasn't something that's done or probably is not widely known. But now that we've having all of these allegations of certain things that are happening to these nationals, I then looked into it to wonder if these people, when you're saying somebody has a conviction from that country, there's a warrant out or whatever the case may be, they're barred from doing things. I'm like, well, how are they allowed to be here? Did they go through this office? Because if they're being looked for in their country and they went through this Washington office, you would think that office would have known, right? And that's where the conversation came from, Harry. Plain and Straight says, and weren't donations taken up for the unfortunate young man whose office Yes, Plain and Straight. Yes. Like I said, the letter that is done by the employer, once you're going through that Washington office, it clearly states what the responsibilities are of the employer, because you have chosen to employ their national. And what if they, God forbid, die? It clearly states from medical to pension to their remains. It is in the document. It's a sworn affidavit. And attached to it, you're doing your ID and you're showing your place of, if it is a company, your trade and business license that links with the work permit. I mean, it's thorough. And it even gives where this person will be residing. Yes. So trust me, Plain and Straight, there's a big gap that is missing here. Harry says, because I feel like the idea they should be allowed to track people is completely ridiculous and should be banned. But then you have situations like this, Harry, if you haven't been following what's happening, that we're also getting questionable characters from certain jurisdictions as well. So, yeah. And where it is alleged that there are even some documents that are being false, I feel that it is a filtering process that certain people would not necessarily be legally allowed to come, because you can't say that an approved work permit going through the work permit board here is not legal. But at the end of the day, they're only making their decision based on a compelling cover letter from a prospective employer and hoping that the documents that they receive is legit. Now, let's see where this goes. Hey, Carol, good to have you joining us. Denver says, this weekend I passed 4 of them on a scooter bicycle without a license plate or helmet. Well, RCIPS, hint, hint, hint. Wake Up Cayman Island says, finger red number 1. Agree. Fix the problem from the core. I hope Minister Miles is listening or one of his people. But that's been there from, gosh, like I said, been dealing with immigration law from 1994. That has been there. I don't understand why. Question, do Cayman fully control its own immigration policy, or does the UK government exercise oversight? No, it's fully controlled by our cabinet or local government. That's one thing with our local immigration laws. It is controlled by our sitting government, Harry. Denver says, I can almost agree with you. 10 to 15% of them should not be here. Connie says, one girl and one phone call cause all, yeah, well, there you go. She opened the Pandora's box, and then it showed a spotlight on other nationalities as well. Harry says, the only reason I ask is because Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland don't have control over immigration policy, even though they're devolved administration. Yeah, but here it is local, Harry. It is local. We have the governor that oversights and sits in every cabinet meeting. And based on certain policy changes, anything that is with law, these things are addressed in the presence of the governor in cabinet before they're passed. And that's any legislative reform, that sort of stuff. The governor sits in those cabinet meetings. As a matter of fact, the governor chairs those meetings. And the deputy governor is also there. The attorney general is also there, the cabinet secretary, and your 8 cabinet ministers. So at the end of the day, the governor has sight of some of these, and all cabinet papers, and they also have oversight of these things even before cabinet. Yeah. And the governor also speaks very frequently with her premier, and the premier then in that case speaks on behalf of his or her cabinet or the cabinet, right? Harry says, you guys will still haven't appointed, no, not yet. It's not public knowledge yet. Harry's asking if the new deputy governor is what's going on with that. I guess it takes a while. Lewis says, how about Teresa Delphin? Heard reports that she was importing Filipinos, charging them a lot of money for a work permit. I don't have any update on that. Hello, my love. How are you? But that expose, I'm quite sure Sandra will give you a follow-up on that, Lewis, for sure. Dean Sinclair says, evening, blesses to, oh, good, Jamaica peeps, in the house. How you say that now? Wataguan. Good to have you with us, nevertheless. It's really good to have you with us. Pleading Straight says, like the Philippines nationals were trying to get around their own countries. Yeah, but it is a requirement. I guess that's so big, Plain and Straight. I don't know. But with all of these things now coming with that one phone call, I think we have a responsibility as well to make sure that we are abiding and adhering to these international requirements, because I'm telling you, a friend of mine was audited by this office because they were saying, hold up. We see where you got 5 of our nationals. What is your business plan? What are you doing? Why do you want another one? And that was when it all came to head for that. Hey, Real Alfred Real. Late to class. What, traffic or what? Are you out camping? How do we know these cheaters go through the back door through Hong Kong and come to Cayman cheating the system? Lewis, we don't know. But what I'm saying is you would catch them. If a condition of any work permit grant or renewal shows that you're registered with that office, you would catch them. And just like how immigration used to do background checks and Interpol back in the day, of course, oh my God, that would probably slow down things. It's a filtration process, but you would catch a lot of things if I feel these things were handled properly. Andrew says there are cases of visitors coming to visit their families here for 2 weeks so that come to get work permits while here. They're probably coming for interviews. Some of them are probably being interviewed. Some of them are possibly actually working right now in certain industries just to see their skill sets, and who knows it. And then what they do, they'll take a trip, let's say to Panama, and they sit and lay low for a few weeks, because unless something has changed, or exceptional circumstances where your position is one that, and for the record, I'm speaking from the head here because this was not supposed to be today's topic. Anyone who is applying for a work permit right now under immigration law, and I stand to be corrected in case that has changed, which I don't think, unless it's a case of exceptional circumstances where the role that you're playing within that organization, or let's say in that household, is one that is so dire, a work permit should not or is not normally granted with you being on island, worse if you're a visitor, because it clearly states, based of you landing as a genuine tourist, that your immigration status for your landing requirements would change, because it would appear then as though you're no longer a genuine tourist as defined by immigration legislation. You would be seeking employment. So who lied on entry? Would you then hold even the sponsors accountable? You see, if you're doing these things thorough, and people would understand the liability that they take on, friend, family, or foe, when it is discovered that you have signed a surety and they are in breach of the pretense that they are being landed under because they're either being interviewed, working, come for the intents and purposes to secure employment, and you hold even who is their sponsor accountable, to me, you would have less breaches, but you got to catch them first. It's really not that hard, even with the broken system that they have right here now, because you can see the arrival of someone, and it isn't hard to figure it out, their departure date, and then the date of an application being submitted for a work permit. And the requirements for work permit is what? A police record, right? A police clearance from their country that they were in, especially if they were there for 6 months. When was that police document issued? More than likely, they would have traveled with that. Why would you travel with a police record? Think about it. It's really not that hard to put the pieces together to see if someone was really landed for the right reasons, if they want to catch them. Just saying, I digress. Live Happy says, these two groups of guest workers should be barred from PR. They are here on visa and incomplete process. Plus, why do they need to stay if they're building a life back home? Denver says, it has been happening for years. Employment being set up by friends into business for employment. I think I heard on one of the shows too, a discussion that Sandra says, there's a family with over 50 family members, but you would never be able to connect it because their names all, yeah. You see, if certain things were being looked at and you can connect the dots, that is why when Ms. Bazdeo was on and we were talking about the marriage law, even though that was just about sham marriages, she was saying they need to do a bureau just to like a separate department just to do these due diligence and all this sort of stuff. Now, I understand that there's a department right now in government that double check risks, to double check things, but that's more from an HR perspective. I'm saying you need a department right now for the amount of nationalities that are coming here to see if we are actually adhering to international norms. You need a standard department that runs these people through, period. And the independent department that actually do the checks and balances of all of these people. Because I'm telling you, this department in Washington is real. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind today?
Good evening, Sabrina, and good evening to the listeners. I didn't want to get you off your roll too much, but I wanted to go back to one of the messages you received, which was about the ombudsman. I'm noticing that a number of people are talking about that increasingly. This morning, I mentioned a little bit of that in OC's show. Another person there called to talk about that, and now here we are. Another person has messaged you about that. I mean, I know that we have talked about this before, and you talked about it before. But there's another dimension which I want to mention, which I didn't mention before, which I think is very significant and might affect the perception of the public with regard to what government does in some of these matters. You know, I do not believe that the governor would have started taking these drastic measures of trying to remove the ombudsman using the legal processes that exist. I mean, she got an investigator from the UK who would have been paid for by government, of course, and that person advised the government to write certain, asking the ombudsman basically to resign rather than face these disciplinary proceedings, and she refused to resign. What I'm thinking, Sabrina, is I personally now have concluded that actually the people who want her out, it's not so much even the governor. I think it is the government that wants her out. And I'll tell you why.
You're speculating all of this because right now, this is all speculation, but go ahead.
No, it's not speculation. I was just going to get into why I have concluded that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of times, you see, we are not in these cabinet rooms to understand what they are saying. But what we try to do is just look at the surrounding circumstances and then try to draw certain inferences. And that's why I have to be careful to say I don't have any direct knowledge that any discussion took place or didn't take place. But I think there are certain things which, since we know how government works, there are certain things that we don't assume that we can draw as inferences. I don't believe that the governor would have taken this drastic measure without informing either the premier personally or informing the cabinet. Okay, I just, the way government operates, you've been in government in different aspects of government. I don't think a governor who also sits in cabinet can take a measure such as this one without either getting the approval of cabinet or even just at least briefing them.
Mm-hmm.
So now, on the assumption that they at least at the very cabinet at least knows,
mm-hmm.
or that they even said they had no objection to it, they've got no right to approve, but they can say, well, they've got no objection. And when you consider that a lot of these grounds on which they want to remove her, like she banged the table, she didn't give feedback to somebody, they appear to be flimsy, they appear to be things which could have been dealt with in normal human resources interaction.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it makes me ask the question, and I think a lot of Caymanians should ask the question, how much protection are you getting behind closed doors when issues like this arise? Yes, we can go out there and change names of parties to Caymanian Community Party or whatever it is, change the names of ministries, but when in the end issues arise of this nature, are you getting the protection that you need behind closed doors?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me draw a comparison with two previous ombudsmen. I won't mention their names. I'll just two previous ombudsmen. The first ombudsman happened to have been a Canadian. This is way back. You are going back to pre and post Ivan times. Okay, there was a Canadian there who was an ombudsman. That ombudsman, for example, at the time of Ivan, and there were these issues regarding rentals and whether people could get back their deposits and just how they were going to treat the agreements in light of that that act of God. This ombudsman issued like a pamphlet to advise landlords and tenants regarding, what their rights are. It was meant really for the protection more of tenants. And I understand a key government official, actually it was the Chief Justice, I understand, who said, no, you must tell the ombudsman that this is not his job. This is outside his jurisdiction. Okay? Now, I'm not suggesting any improper behavior on the part of that ombudsman. I'm just saying that this was something he did in good faith, and other people in government also in good faith thought that he was exceeding his jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's not the first time that particular ombudsman was questioned regarding whether he was exceeding his jurisdiction. But was there ever an issue that he should be removed? Never was. to me, there were more serious issues which could have been inquired into, and yet he served his term. 5 years, he finished it, and he left. No question of discipline. Then there was this ombudsman, the one who from whom the current ombudsman took over. That ombudsman, there was a matter which I took to her. It related to the judiciary. She took it up. The judiciary had argued at the time that, well, but this is a judicial matter. I argued, no, this is an administrative matter. She accepted my submission that this was an administrative matter, and therefore she had jurisdiction. But when she asked the judiciary to produce the particular document that I wanted them to produce, the Chief Justice wrote a letter to her and told her, you don't have jurisdiction, this is a judicial function, and she backed down. The point I want to emphasize is that she backed down, having made a decision that actually she had jurisdiction. Okay? Now, is that what the current ombudsman who disciplined did? No. She found the judiciary twice of doing things that were, she considered maladministration. She found the Judicial and Legal Service Commission guilty of maladministration for failing to draw up rules. Despite the fact that there is no real misconduct, they are saying she must be removed.
But
I believe
are we
that
jumping ahead of it now? Because for something like this that has made, not to cut you, for something of this nature that has actually gotten the attention nationally, this is the second time that I've been aware of it. And I've just been aware now that it's in circulation again officially here on this site based on this statement made by Keith. I guess he was listening to some of the other platforms. As you rightfully say, I'm quite sure if it has surfaced again, then there must be reasons or some why it's making its head. My only take is, if this is actually a reality and they've asked her to step down for whatever reason or being removed, yes, like I alluded to earlier on, I'm quite sure that the cabinet has been abreast of this move, understanding the sensitive nature, understanding how topical it has been in the community, in the platforms. And another Caymanian in a high position that we're saying Caymanians need to be put in these roles, and it shouldn't be placed by a foreign national or someone who is not generational. Something like this is going to become topical, which is why I am cautioning. I'm erring on the side of caution that we wait until, I guess, some sort of official details come out on it. Because if this is now developing, it's only a matter of time it will make its head, is all I'm saying. For it to spring up again, it means something possibly has actually blew up again for whatever reason. I don't know. So that's why I'm erring on the side of caution.
Yes, the caution is well placed. But at the same time, I think that we should always be able to discuss it within certain limits without casting aspersions on anybody. And what I believe, in fact, you've just led me into something that had occurred to me before, but I had forgotten to say it. I think that the government should make some kind of statement about this. I'm not saying that the government can get up and
understanding the topical, how sensitive, how emotive it is. Maybe it's something that will be done jointly. I don't know. Again, this is where you would hear me say all the time, get ahead of it. Get ahead of it. Control the narrative. Get ahead of it. Because this is not the first time. And like I said, it is just now presenting itself in this space because of Keith and yourself confirming it was another topical again in another space. But get ahead of it. Get ahead of it. Be it the governor in joint partnership with the premier, who's a representative of the people. You understand where I'm going with that? Get ahead of it.
If, for example, they were briefed by the governor that she's going to take these measures and so on, they can at least say, I know they can't say whether they were, they can say, well, we were briefed, we are aware, we don't want to interfere, but we were briefed. Yes. At least they should be able to say
something, a holding statement, more developing on this to come or something like that. And we will definitely keep you abreast with this. And that would be an opportunity as well to say, and explain in layman's terms the separation of powers. the operational arm.
Exactly.
And it will give them an opportunity to explain to the people from their lips the separation of powers, understanding where the role of the ombudsman, where that office falls, and the close connectivity to the parliament. Hello? That's why you want to break it down in layman's terms, because there's still only so far they can go.
Yeah, you see, that's what, and you see, just people also need to understand, as you say, it's a teachable moment in that you say, look, this is the separation of powers.
Yeah.
So we will say something, but we can't say more than X. Why? Because it's a separation of powers. However, we are elected by the people. We are responsible for good governance. We have these institutions which are meant to support democracy, such as the ombudsman. And as government, we want to support these institutions to become effective. But when an issue like this arises, we have been briefed, but we cannot interfere in it, particularly now that the matter is going to go to court. There must be somebody out there, there must be a statement from government to say that, well, this is what we thought. Because you see, when you think of it, I mean, I know I've already given examples of previous ombudsmen, but I will also just mention the last DPP. The last DPP also left under a cloud, but again, he wasn't removed, or maybe, I don't know what happened behind the scenes and so on. But all these issues, I believe that they are issues which even Parliament, at an appropriate time after the court case is over, at an appropriate time, Parliament should be able to chime in on this and say how supportive are the successive governments on these institutions, particularly when they are manned by Caymanians, because there seems to be a perception that sometimes Caymanians are easier to remove than the other. But that's what I wanted to say about the ombudsman.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Go ahead.
Yeah,
let's hope it's on topic of what we're talking about with the Filipinos.
Yeah, well, yeah. The second one is very brief, Sabrina. I just want to use your platform very briefly to thank the people who sent in goodwill messages before and after my hearing. You remember that? You might remember my hearing was
Tuesday or something like that, right?
Yes, it was. It was on the 23rd and the 24th. We had a hearing, 2 full days with these 3 UK justices. It was the Right Honourable Sir Nicholas Underhill, who is a Justice of Appeal in the UK, who was presiding, and the Right Honourable Sir Stephen Irwin, who is also a Justice of Appeal, and then thirdly, the Right Honourable Patrick Elias, who is also a Justice of Appeal. And they heard the matter, and a lot of the people who were listening in, my Mackenzie friends, they are called Mackenzie friends in that they are these friends of yours. You come, there are people who accompany you to court. They are not lawyers, but they are just there to give you,
Support.
either support, either moral or logistical support. And I'm really, really grateful that a lot of people were able to do that. And they were able to agree that the judges really were taking the matter seriously. They asked some real great questions. And if anything, they were more or less expressing agreement with me on some issues, okay? For example, one of the justices said that it appears to be problematic that the Chief Justice can be a member of a committee of the Commission which investigates a matter and then recommends it to the Judicial Commission. Then the Chief Justice is also a member of the Commission, and then that Commission makes a recommendation to the Chief Justice, who, under the Constitution, makes a decision. One judge openly said that seems to be clearly a problem, because that's one of the issues that I was challenging. Another one which the presiding Justice, Lord Underhill, said something about, because one of the arguments which I made is not just that the structure is a problem, but also in this particular case, it does not appear that, in fact, the Chief Justice made the decision. The way she wrote her decision was, I've received a recommendation from the Commission, accordingly, your case is dismissed. My argument was that doesn't say that she accepted the recommendation, which means that who made the decision, was it the Commission or her? And she was just conveying it to me. And the Lord Justice also said, yes, that's the way that one looks, because how can the Chief Justice just say, accordingly, your case is dismissed? surely she should say she has accepted the recommendation or that she is dismissing it. So with those 2 points, more or less, the judges were already saying that they agreed with me. And,
So what's
and
the
there
outcome?
were other... Well, we don't know the outcome yet. They didn't give an indication. Usually they don't give an indication. According to the Grand Court Practice Direction, decisions in the Grand Court are supposed to be given within 3 months, unless there are exceptional circumstances. Now, the Court of Appeal judges are not usually tied to that, so we don't know when it's going to be. I would say that I would be surprised if we got it in 3 months, because Sabrina has got 27 grounds of appeal. It's got some real issues like the one that I mentioned to you. Remember, where if you file an application for judicial review in the Cayman Islands today, it is treated to be a secret, and there's a secret file on which they put it until a judge gives you leave. That has never been like that in the Cayman Islands until 2019. There's no Commonwealth country where it is like that. And I have asked them specifically that they must declare that to be unconstitutional. And so these are really, really, really major constitutional issues. Otherwise, it was just to thank the people for the support. And I hope that when the decision comes out, a few things will be corrected, and the people in the end will benefit.
All right. Thank you for
thank you,
sharing
Sabrina.
that.
You have a good day.
Likewise.
Cheers.
Sir. Take care.
Bye.
There we go. There. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yes, thank you for sharing up, and definitely, I'm quite sure you will keep us up to speed with what's going on. Let's just continue here. We were speaking just before that caller, and just before that caller, we were speaking about the whole processing of Filipino nationals coming here and the reputational damage that it poses on us. And plain and straight, going back, for those of you just joining us, welcome to one and all. This is Sabrina Speaks here, as we are almost in the last half hour today. Harry was saying, okay. So the idea the governor would express UK approval if there were some reasons to block something. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue, and it goes back before me, that there have been cases where in the past, which I can't go through because I'm young to this thing, where there have been some cases where certain things have been held back, but it is a process. Definitely things in time has changed. Denver was speaking about employment. Plain and straight says, and are you able to check, and this is about Filipino nationals or Nepalese now, we're talking about getting back on topic. Are you able to check when they are already outside of the Philippines, whether they are legally required to let their government know that they are moving from one foreign country to another? There is some sort of responsibility on that as well. Yes, plain straight. There is a responsibility. So it is shared, which is why I'm saying they are fully aware. But us being over here sometimes, whether it's not as deliberate, can be taken advantage of. I don't know. I'm not going to just throw that out there, Willie. That would be irresponsible of me. But you would think that if you're going through a government agency to get a license, a legal work permit, to be gainfully employed in the Cayman Islands, where you adhere to the law, medical, pension, that, it would be a condition, right? So if you don't ask, I ain't going to tell. Maybe that's the stance. I don't know. Plain and straight says, absolutely agree that we do have to protect our reputation as employers and jurisdiction as a whole. This is a reflection on all of us, to be honest with you. Harry says, apologies, I know this is off topic, but I find relationship between the UK government and all its constituents parts fascinating. So when you were in government, did you ever get anything where, no, not during my time, but I understand that history goes back to this, Harry. No, not during my time. That's why it's important through cabinet meetings that these papers are seen beforehand and you discuss it, anything to hash out there, and then everybody has a way in. However, they're not voting members of the cabinet. The government side, which is the governor, the deputy governor, the AG, cabinet secretary, all of them, they are not voting members who actually votes on whether or not these papers are approved or proceed is actually done by your 8 cabinet elected officials. But should there be any information that needs to be shared or things to be cautioned about, that is actually discussed at that time in there. Yeah. And sometimes that's why it's good as well that the governor ahead of time gets these cabinet papers so that that person in that role can review these things, and should anything come out that they may think it is very important or something that, you know, needs to be addressed, that they can actually point it out at that time before the actual official meeting. Okay. Andrew says, so this is a violation and should be seriously be, well, I'll leave it to the powers that be, Andrew, but obviously something is wrong. And with the immigration reform now and Sandra bringing it to light because of that one call, let's hope that these things, to be honest with you, are actually brought into existence and something be looked at it. But there are offices, international offices, that Filipino nationals, Nepalese, and I'm quite sure there are probably others, but because of the topic last week that was about these two specific nationalities is what probed me to go and look, go and research. And then the conversation came up with a friend of mine who I was instrumental, my business was instrumental in doing these letters for. So at the end of the day, let's see what will become of it. Good evening, caller. Welcome back.
Welcome back. That's my little piece. I don't tell you. I don't know if anybody remember me. Not bashing on nationality, but telling them about Filipinos that they are smart, but they are tricky people and they can lie. I telling them my niece is a lawyer, immigration lawyer in New York. Now she's working with ICE, and she say that of all the nations, and she deal with them from all walks of life. They don't know way them that she not deal with not born yet, and the mother dead, and the father not born. And they is the worst that she ever deal with yet, because they can lie. And they will lie if it's a way to get out. They talk about if you go to hell, and at Jamaica, hold on to he shot up pants, but I could tell you better hold on to it. And then I had some dealing with a few, and they will lie. I was gonna kill one down and but lying on me that were working on had one of my in-laws. And she afraid of me like cat now. When she come out, had to bring anything, she drops it on the step, knock on the door, and gone running. I could bring her and she lie. Plus my friend that had the farm out, that had one. And the lies that she tell a woman, I keep telling a woman, this little old girl is a liar. You can't see through her. Let me tell you, there is something else. Then my pedicurist, the Mary Regine, that Sandra feature, I could tell about her. The one that they ship out. She was something else. Because I know she was looking to marry to get a stay here. And it was somebody that I had no, because they went nowhere that she was talking to them, but they find her real quick. And when I went back at there, I asked her, I said, well, you can get married. And what? I don't talk to them no more. I say, yeah, because they find you out. And her employee told me she was a BITCH. So I can tell you that they are terrible people. Terrible. They be talking about the poor Jamaican, but my niece tell me, no, Jamaican can't lie like them. They wasn't a preacher in church.
Mm-hmm.
And lie.
Wow.
They will lie. She say you could have everything in front of them, in front of you, pertaining to them, and you prove, Mom, not me, and this and that. And I say, so sometimes, she can't hit them, but she feel like if she had Samson strength, she would strike them right out in front of her. But she can't do it because she's been working 30 odd years and that's her job. But she say them people are devious. Mm-hmm. Devious.
Well, you wouldn't even give us an opportunity because you came in like a wrecking ball, but thank you for your feedback. Welcome back, Miss Shelma.
I already have stress out, but glad to be back up in my bush. But Jesus, Lord, more stress than when I was in Florida. I wish I could have stayed back. But Trump probably would have soon run me back because I would have had till the 30th of May. But I don't know. And then the man asked me, then they give me harassment at the airport with Bellary feed. Because, I mean, how stupid.
Yeah,
yeah, but then the letter was in the thing from the doctor, Dr. James Cordell from Moffitt, and they had in it the stipulations. And if it were any questions, call his nurse or reach out to him. And the man can tell me, and he made me lose my little $20 that my daughter gave me, buy my little hamburger and drink, and I had no money. through the stupidness become my bag. But when the guy we were going through, he said, everything else was nice. They never put us through the old big machine. They just make the rig went through the gate. When I was going to lift up the shirt to show the woman
The tube.
the tube, he got she said, that's okay. And he said, when I tell him, I said a backpack because I had to feed him before the flight leave.
Mm-hmm.
And we had four liquids while he eating the nestle, whatever, Tucal or whatever. And then I had the 2 bottles of water, the 2 little syringes, the container that I have to put the water in the syringe. So the man told me, he said, well, we're going to take them out and we're going to put them in the band. We take them out the backpack, he put them in the little gray band, put the letter in that open up, and put my handbag in it. When we come through, I get my little carry-on suitcase, because that's all I had, and he had his backpack, and I had my purse. I looking for his backpack, my purse. The man down the end had it whole up. Then he got there. I said, well, sir, what happened? He can't tell me that the cartoon from the formula showing something. I said, but sir, what it could show? I said, and then he would start talking. I said, sir, there's the letter from the doctor. I said, who would put, I said, it's been in our presence at all time. Nobody had no handling with this. And he's my husband. I even give him more. I said, for 53 years, he's sick now, but I don't want to kill him. I said, so why I can put something in something that he got to drink? Then he said, well, it was sure. I said, well, okay, do you want me? Or no, I gave him permission to open it. He said he wasn't going to open it. So he bring one. I said, well, bring it. I will open it and show you. He bring the little container but he hold it and I pop the cover on it. I said, see, it's a milk liquid. Then he said, and he have one little thing. I said, but you're not going to push that down in this. And he said, because I said, I'm going to have to throw it away and it's very expensive and we can't get it back in the island. So he, that he was going to have to pour, I said, well, pour some out. And to me, it was like one of these little old papers that they give you, but I guess it wasn't that, but that's how I would pass it. Like why they give you when you're going to sample the perfume, something long weight like that. He pour some, and then he push it up in some machine, and then he tell me, cover it back. Well, I cover it, and then he say, make sure that you know that this is the one open. I say, well, yes, sir. I put that down in the glass that I had with the cup, solo cup to put the water in. I stand it up down that to make sure now that that's the first one I feed him, and then he push it through, and he say, it's good. I say, sir, see, but Anna doubts people. I said,
but
when
they got to do their job.
Through,
they got to do their job.
I know, but then he's so stupid. I mean, he had the thing. He had the letter from the doctor. You think the doctor, I don't think they're corrupt that they can try to make anything get through security. I feel like telling them, but I said the problem one band. I feel like telling them when the bomb gonna come through and I'm gonna fucking find it. I say no.
You wanted to get hold your mouth, hold your tongue.
Hold your tongue. God control this tongue because they don't wanna because the things slip through them and they don't even see it. So stupid that the only problem I had. And with and everybody telling me, you don't have no problem with that guy got a letter from the doctor. He got a letter from the doctor. Signed by the doctor, Moffitt Hospital, heading on the top of the letterhead and everything. And he's a little old shit.
Yep. But everybody here, Shelma, they're welcoming you back. Damien Henry says, she's back. Kaboom.
The man came on Airways, because it was a nice and thing. And he said, are you coming back? I said, sir, I don't know. I said, because traveling used to be a pleasure. I said, I'd like to go Strawberry Festival in Busch Garden. He said, well, did you go? I said, yeah, I went, but they were hot. I said, well, I didn't get Busch Garden after my husband got sick, but we went to the Strawberry Festival one day before it ended. Then he said, and I said, I've been coming to Tampa when my kids were small and they're young man and woman now, you could say. Yeah. Then he said, yeah, he said, because from 911, he said, traveling went to wire, and then after the pandemic, I said, yeah, now it's worse getting, and he's saying it can get worse. And I tell him, I say, I said, because he's supposed to come back by the 16th of May, but I'm in June, but I don't think I come and my daughter can help him and get him probably and bring him back. I said, because traveling now is a hassle. Plus, it's expensive. Yeah. We had to pay Caymanian $290 for 6 pieces of luggage. Okay. And I say it's expensive, and then the money is not like before. So I say, what I've seen in my life at 71 years, I think I can stay at my bush and look at the owls when they come out and the frogs when it rains. The man say, I like you. He said, I like you. I say, I don't think I won't go anyway soon.
Well, the love has definitely been coming across here with Shelma. And I think, Zoka, that was a typo from our friend Denver. Denver is welcoming you back, Miss.
I seen him today.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, Shelma, welcome back. Good to see you all today."
I'm gonna go run in tomorrow again, 3 o'clock.
I-
Trying to hurry to start his stuff. I try and buy one car, but I don't know. But good, I got good friends.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Soka, even Soka is confirming, but that was a typo, Soka. Darlene is laughing, but I mean, at the end of the day, Melita says, "Hi, everyone." Melita's in the house. Would you think that they wouldn't even question you about your husband, my friend, being through that?
At least thank God somebody still love me. Some hate me, but some love me.
No hate here. No hate here. Lots of love.
I hear my friend, Mr. Balika.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, so
Yeah, okay.
that's her. Thank you, my love.
And
Welcome back.
Happy Easter there, brother, but I'm not going camping. I got stay right at my little Maros and my little 2x4 house.
That's right.
Thank
That's
God
right.
for it. I want to bank it. Not a prettiest, but it's for me.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Anyhow,
Right.
she's back.
Okay.
She's back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, a little later.
Yeah. We'll make it. God is good.
Amen. There we go. The one, the only Shalma is back. Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's continue. Thanks for that update, Shalma. We gotta love this space. Look at him. And while Miss Shalma was on, let me digress. Look at what one of our WhatsApp people sent us. Siobhan, you wicked. Siobhan, you are wicked. That's bara or what? What kind of fish is that with fritters? You could make dumpling, fried dumpling, or fritters. Which one? Tell me what kind of fish that is, if you can identify that. Fried fish and fritters this evening. Well, you boasting you. Look at what I had yesterday. I didn't cook it though. Oh no, look at that. Look at that. That is not AI, guys. That is a real plate that Eric ate. He ate that entire red snapper with okra, I think, and pumpkin and crackers and corn. And oh my God, that's what he devoured. So poor little me now trying to compete with him. I did this. Hot cross buns. I did that for the first time ever. And they came out pretty well as well. Look. So Anna sharing what you guys are doing. They were really, ooh, boy, Siobhan, Jesus, wept and died. Look, and you got the audacity to share it fried. Oh my God, she's sharing it with us. She's sharing it. She's sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, it only us can switch from one thing to the next, you know. Siobhan, you are wicked. You are one wicked soul. Good evening, my friend. You really gonna have the audacity to call after you sharing this?
That's Bara.
Bara.
That's Bara.
Yeah. The sweetest fish in the sea.
Yeah. Ever was, ever is, ever will be.
And here you eating tuna?
Elbow bending, mouth opening.
Oh my God.
Good.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that with us. Melita says she just did curry goat. Oh my God. It must be the season.
Well, I can come for some of that too.
Yeah. You guys are something else. So you're going camping?
Thinking about it.
Okay, good.
Still thinking about it.
All right. Well, at this rate, girl, you don't have to go outside. What I see on the screen?
No, exactly. I'm a glamper, not a. I'm a glamper, not a camper.
Oh, I know the feeling, girl. I know the feeling. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Thanks for sharing with us. Definitely.
You're welcome. Bye.
All right. Bye. Oh my God. I just got to love my people. I got to just love my people, you know. Look, Denver said, that's 3 days of food for me. Oh gosh. It wouldn't last anything. It wouldn't last no time. But let's get back here. I see where Carrie had shared with me about the work permit, and somebody had a question about moving from one employer to the next. Kim and Brack, Bass Island says, let us not forget that when the work permit expires, that the 10-day grace you are given is to depart the country and not floating around looking for another job or competing with unemployed Caymanians. And she further said, only in extreme circumstances, but it's not normally allowed. Meaning, and I think what she was saying here is somebody had said in regards to persons arriving here as visitors and they go and they look for jobs. And she's reiterating exactly what I said, that work permits aren't given. It's really in extreme circumstances. Okay. Plain and straight. So also, how are they changing while they're here? I thought it. Hold on 1 minute. Hold on 1 minute for me. Also, how are they here changing employers while they're here? I thought if they quit or got fired, then that person would also have to leave the island for a new permit. That's only going to take effect when the new system comes into play, plain and straight. So that is what's proposed under the new thing, where they were actually having, I think, 2 years, or you had to wait based on the terms and conditions of you leaving. But again, with things keep changing, we have to, you pretty much have to just watch Facebook and see what they're posting to know, or you listen to one particular radio station to get all the updates. Good evening. Welcome back, Ms. Shelma. Ms. Shelma? Hello? Hello?
I said I wasn't called back, but that red snapper issue, Eric could keep him, but after she won't show that barracuda, the minute I see that, I know that barracuda, and I agree with her. The best fish in the sea, but if he not poison, but when that poison hit you, that's the next thing.
Aye.
But you know, my mother, she wasn't a big fish eater, but that was her favorite fish. Anytime I go in Tampa, that's why I used to have the car, and I used to tell her mama, at the age that one time when she was 95, I said, Mama, when I asked her what you want me to bring, she said, if you can get me some good barra. And I said, but Mama, why you like these barras so much? I said, you know that they're poison? She said, well, I never was poisoned yet. She said, I'm 95. And I worry about the poison. She said, I say my prayer and eat it. That was her favorite fish. My other sister is the grouper.
Aye.
And I used to laugh at them and tell them, I don't know, they say groupers Viagra. And I say, I don't know, age 85 and 76. I say 77 on a one grouper.
Oh
and
God.
They used to, but I would tell you what, John Franklin would tell me about the red snapper, but I can't say that on the show. I'll tell you about it. He used to tease me about these red snappers, about Honduras. I'll tell you what he said last time, but I agree. Barra is the sweetest, and only two fish I eat, or three, goggle eye, barra, and kingfish.
Aye.
Apart from that, and I don't know fish lover, but I don't want, and I eat turbot and old wife because I'm afraid of bone. And I don't like them little small fish, but the red snapper, I don't want him. Barracuda is the best.
Thank you.
But you know what one old man from Cayman tell us? He said, when you fish for a barra and you catch a barra, and just as you lick him, I know sometimes they still be live and you got to hit them to get the hook up from them. He said, if the fish, if he dead right away, you could throw him back in the sea because he poisoned. But if he hard to die, you could eat him. But I used to try him with ants and put American diamond, and I used to boil American diamond, piece of the flesh, and they say, but that was when you get the real copper ones.
Right.
And they say that if that turned black, you could have thrown that away. But then somebody said, I tried on a cat, but they say no cat done 9 lives. Because I remember one time, my friend, Miss Bush, had tried on a cat. And it was poison, and it poisoned the people that eat it. But next morning, they were looking for the cat, and they couldn't find him nowhere. But then they see the cat come back. And I said, well, they say cat got 9 lives, so it poisoned the people, and I will kill the cat.
There we go. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yep. Thank you, Michelle. And Siobhan also sends us pictures of the fritters now that she's going to eat with this barra. Oh, my God. Anyhow, you're getting me hungry. Lewis says, honestly, Sabrina, Customs and Border Control should conduct random inspections to ensure that these individuals are living in the places that they claim to be living. Many of them live in their vehicles for a long time with no proper leasing agreement. They live by their friends during the day or go by their friends to sleep, and at night they go to work. They are taking advantage of Cayman. Why are they taking advantage of Cayman? This country feeds them, and this is how they are paying the Cayman. To be honest with you, this is a delicate one, to be honest with you, because we're not actually going to take blame for what they're subjected to, because nobody should be subjected to some of the allegations that has made it on a public platform. Bottom line, what this actually highlights, Lewis, is that we need a stronger and better enforcement arm. This, my friend, is what this is screaming, your questions on the bottom. If we had better enforcements, maybe more personnel, knowing what they should be doing and willing to do it to guardrail and safeguard the legislations that are put in place, because laws, policies are no good if they're not enforced. And what this is screaming is that something is wrong. We saw where on the Cold Hard Truth, where block and parcels were given for locations, and this is to be confirmed, that didn't align with the physical address. Now, you would ask, who should be checking that? Is it the person who is processing? Or are they just making sure that they're looking at it to see that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, but validating what's actually on the application form, as long as the space is filled with something, it doesn't have to be the right thing? We don't know. We don't know. And this is why now, with this Pandora box being wide open, some of these things now, there's more than just a check the box exercise before it's placed on an agenda for a decision to be made. Some serious due diligence is going to have to go into the processing of these things, which means accommodation sheets that bear the wrong block and parcel that does not really even align would be caught if certain things were put into place. And it is now said that, and it came out as well in regards to self-certification of medical and pension, that is no longer, that is something come January of 2027, that self-certification now is going to be no more. So all of those employers who were self-certifying saying, yep, I'm up to date with my pensions, no more. No more. So what it has done is that the good graces are no longer going to be there. And I was speaking to someone earlier on today, and I didn't realize how casual the conversation was, and it's a norm. They said to me, Miss Sabrina, do you know how much people are paying for their own work permit, paying their own pension, and their own medical? It's to the point now that one particular industry, the construction industry, the math is no longer mathing. And it is being said that there are individuals that are leaving because the cost of living and all of that sort of stuff is so high now, and they are expected to pay for their own pension, pay for their own medical, and their work permit. And I even got a number as to how much they have to pay their work permit holder a week. I got a number of $80 a week that they have to pay the holder of the work permit. And my thing was, why aren't they reporting it? How are you going to report it? Because they need to work. What do you expect me to do? What do you expect us to do? Yeah. And the retribution then that will come from them actually going to report it. And in the conversation, it was stated, if those persons who find themselves in this predicament where it's okay once the money is running, that it is agreed between the trade and business holder, the company, for them to pay their own work permit, pay their own medical, pay their own pension, and their work permits. And then on top of all of that, they pay their employer on paper $80 a week. Do you know how much that is based on the size of that company? And guess what? It is hard for enforcement. It is hard for CBC. It is hard for DLP to really be able to zoom in on these breaches because what is being submitted to WORC is appearing legit. Nobody's asking me as the employer or the agent, where did you get this money from to submit this application? You assume that everyone is following the law. Alert, there are a lot more out there right now that are self-paying their work permits than there are employers who are paying for their work permits. And they're actually acting as brokers, their own brokers. Unless these persons who are doing this band together and say enough is enough of this foolishness, and they're willing to come together as employees and stick together. The saying is, you're as strong as your weakest link. Enforcement will have little to no grounds to prove it. Now, one may say, but they have the right to go. You yourself, Ms. Sabrina, says that they have the powers to go in and do it. Yeah, they do. What are you going to find? And even if they interview the staff, you're still letting the staff back out into the pig pen, into the environment for them to, if they even give a statement that is factual and all their stories align. Yeah. Let me tell you something. The only how it's going to stop, and that's if some of these individuals who are being taken advantage of help themselves. You can't expect a system to help you when you can't help yourself. You are enabling this type of extortion, this type of slavery, when you do not stand together and come up and speak up. Well, I have my house I want to finish. I have 2 children that is going to school and I'm the only one that well, take what you get. Literally, I had to honestly just say that. Take what you get. Because it's not that the laws aren't there. The laws are there. The laws are there. Enforcement is there. They know their role. But how are they going to act on something if you're not even willing to put something in writing? Good evening, caller. These blooming fritters.
I wasn't going to call back because my elbow bending and my mouth is opening. But when I hear you talking about immigration, the reality is, Sabrina, people are less likely to come forward to report abuses. And I'm talking about, I would say, in particular, your minimum wage workers. Perhaps persons who are working for smaller companies, not large conglomerates. And the reason is, Sabrina, people who, the majority of our workforce, I believe, are largely minimum wage workers and are coming from, they say we can't say third world countries anymore, but they're still third world. Some of them fourth. Coming from third world and developing countries, they are not going to upset the apple cart. They may leave that employer and that employment, but they will never report those infractions because they don't want to be stigmatized in their own communities for having ratted out the person or Sabrina from East Jabib, she reported it, so she making it bad for the rest of us. So we know we're not gonna help them again. Nobody is willing to do that. And until and when, and again, a lot of these people are coming here. I think it was on Sandra's platform on CMR. I think I heard Johan Moxham calling and said, basically you can't call it human trafficking if people are knowingly and willingly participating in something that they're aware of I guess the cost. Forgive me if right. Right, that they know it's wrong. Well, there's the doctrine of equity in law that says you must come with clean hands, which is completely correct. But when you are taking blatant advantage of people who really don't know any better, Sabrina, no, I'm sorry. It is human trafficking. It is human trafficking in my mind. And I think that the Honorable Michael Myers was well placed to say that was the case. Look at what we've just recently uncovered here with Nydia and her Licardo, whatever the hell his name is. Look at what we've just uncovered there. And my grandma says for every roach that you see, there's 100 that you don't. Right? And so the reality is you are more likely I'm sure if the Labor Department were able to give you a true and accurate survey in terms of employment infractions, I would largely say that the majority of those are from very large corporations or medium to large corporations versus your everyday small trading as construction company or those types of things. And it's really unfortunate. Everybody wants to come here for a better life and they see the opportunity and they can create opportunities what feels like out of nothing, to be fair, right? But I mean, again, these people are first of all willing to take up jobs that some Caymanians simply aren't willing to take up.
Right.
But more importantly, they are coming from conditions where the living conditions were subpar at best anyway. So living in a car may be a step up from where they were or are coming from.
That doesn't make it right.
And it doesn't make it right, but you can't hold an employer responsible for a man who my employer doesn't know if I live under a tree or in a tent. He doesn't know. I agree to accept a wage. I would like to think that small and medium or micro and small Caymanian businesses are paying minimum wage. That is what it is. You agree to work for a specific wage, Sabrina. You have to figure out how that's going to work in your budget and how you're going to figure that out. It should not fall to the shoulders of an employer to have to fret about that too. They themselves are trying to make it in this economy, and all businesses are Caymanian businesses, save for those operating under LCCLs. And we know those are limited. Very limited.
Small number.
Right? Exactly. And so I think what we forget at the end of this, and we want to talk about poor Caymanian employers, they do exist. They do exist, Sabrina. But I don't think that they represent the majority. I don't think that they represent the majority of bad employers. And quite frankly, if you agree to work for a particular wage or certain amount of money, then you ought to know that can work for you, or it can't. But people see Cayman as the land of milk and honey and opportunity and every other unity that you can think of out there. And that's, I think, not saying that it's right, not suggesting at all that it's right, why they find themselves in their precarious positions. One last thing, I just need to say it. I know I'm going to get cussed, but that's all right because the show's about to end. I noticed that the Honorable Michael Miles put out that there were some $14 million of pensions being outstanding.
Yeah, where they're, yeah.
I recall on one of the platforms, I believe it might have been Sandra, I will not call the MP's name. I think there were 2 MPs at that last election who had thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of pension funds due and owed to either former employees or in some cases current employees. I think that government needs to set the tone and they need to lead by example. That includes paying pensions for your employees. You should not be an MP engaging in that kind of badness. It looks bad.
Loud and clear.
It looked bad. But I just want to tell everybody paying attention. I'll leave it there.
All right, thanks. I'll try to stealing another quick call as we wrap up today's episode of Sabrina Speak. Julian, please. We ask people for respect here, and we do not and will not actually entertain this type of commentary. Please, I will give you one warning. Otherwise, I will ban you. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Well, good evening, Sabrina. You're not Brandis Braca yet, but that's good to know. Anyways,
it is 7:01 and we end at 7. So yeah.
Sorry. Well, anyway, I'm just calling in respect to all of this stuff going on with the employment and work not doing their job. And listen, I had a Filipino worker who forged my signature on documents to submitted work permit application forms for her family members. I didn't even know those permits had gone in. They paid for it. I didn't even know. Under my business license, got it and got the work permits approved, you know. How I found out about it, they never sent them to my email. They sent them to another email they had created. quite similar to my business name on Yahoo. Okay. And the work permits went there. And then that's how I found out was when immigration called me. I can't remember something about one of them had overstayed. And I'm like, I don't have this person employed. They're not my employee. Listen, you got to be careful as a business owner when you hire certain nationalities to work in your business.
When you hire anybody, you draw the lines in the sand.
I agree with that too.
You draw the lines in the sand, straight up. It's just certain things you do not allow them. And this is the problem. We become too cushy with our thing and the employer versus employee relationship. And then sometimes you just pour your heart out, and that's not good.
I wasn't cushy with my staff after getting robbed in the past. Mm-hmm. It was the fact that they were in my office and they could get access to stationery, letterheads, my signature on their payment statement and stuff like that they can superimpose on an application form. And so on and so forth. And all of this stuff, the problem is with that is when you go to that counter to submit that work permit, the WRC should have some sort of a system in place where they communicate directly to the business owner to say, hey, did you submit a permit for so-and-so? And that way you can say, okay, no, I didn't. That's not me. I didn't submit that permit. But they don't offer any sort of customer care protection service. They just gravelicious and take the permits and take the money and approve them. And nobody sees that certain people are walking up to the counter with cash in their hand to pay for permits and stuff like that. And things like that should be questioned. You should not be allowed to walk into the WRC and pay cash for any work permit. It's either a company business check, they're not on the government list, or a bank draft, or a debit card, or a credit card, or something, or online transfer, and give them a proof of that, something other than cash. They have to improve the security aspects of our systems going forward. Otherwise, we're going to constantly get fleeced, defrauded. I mean, I would like to know how many little micro businesses didn't, how that happened to them from somebody doing that, putting in permits under their business name. Because all you got to do is go on the TNB. You got to publish your license anyway. And if they don't even see your license, they can go on the reports online and see your license and take the information off of that to submit their work permit.
Who's doing the checks and balances is what you're saying. Yeah.
There's absolutely none. Yeah. Anyway, thank you again. Have a good evening.
Likewise. Take care. Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in today. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you for your calls, for sharing with us exactly what you're doing. And even though we didn't even get into what I intended to do today. But you know what? That's what I love about this space. It's your space. And I'm living up to prove that is the case. So whether or not you're home partaking in bara and fritters, or you're going to be like me, have a cup of coffee and a hot cross bun, I want to wish you a very good evening. Thank you for being with me, and thank you for showing up here every evening. And until tomorrow evening, please be safe on our roads. Love you lots. Good night. God bless.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.